On today's Throwback, we're going to be looking at the Marvel Legends Sentinel series. We're going to be looking at Cyclops. The Cyclops, unfortunately, in the very crudely put back together package. When I did the initial review on Cyclops, I sloppily, is that a word, sloppily? I sloppily opened this guy up so that when I put him back in the closet, the packaging is very loose and flimsy on this. Anyways, I figured I'd do myself a throwback and redo this figure. I did like the initial review. I thought it turned out pretty good, but for the sake of doing this as a series, I figured I'd go back to a throwback on this guy. As you can see, collect all 7 Sentinel series figures and build your own giant 16-inch Sentinel. Package includes the left arm of Sentinel. On the back of the package, the other figures in this wave: Cyclops, Spider-Man, we've got Mystique, Omega Red, Angel, Black Panther, and Mr. Sinister. The Cyclops also does come with an X-Factor costume variant, which I never did end up picking up. And the read-up says, Scott Summers, one of Professor X's, or Charles Xavier's first recruits, is stalwart leader of the X-Men. Xavier took Scott into his Institute for Gifted Children in Winchester County, New York. Westchester, did I say Winchester? Westchester County, New York. When he discovered the young man's uncontrollable ability to release immensely destructive force beams from his eyes, and began training the boy in the use of his incredible power. Scott firmly believes in the professor's dream of human and mutant coexistence. Cyclops possesses the mutant ability to project a beam of concussive force from his eyes. Unable to control the blast, Cyclops prevents the energy from escaping by wearing ruby quartz lenses, the only substance able to diffuse his awesome power. A nice little drawing there. Cyclops with his optic glass. So what we'll do, that's packaging. Not much in the way of opening this guy back up, but we're going to get him opened up, and we will have a look at Cyclops. Stay tuned. And 2 things I'll quickly point out. Cyclops comes here with the Uncanny X-Men 201, who will lead them. Not for sale. Not for resale. Nice classic drawing. Cyclops and Mohawk Storm. There we go. And the Collect and Connect piece, I said it again, the Build-A-Figure piece that Sentinel, or that Cyclops comes with, is the very articulated, very detailed arm of Sentinel. So what we'll do, it's gonna bring him in. There he is. Not even gonna get all of this on shot, I know, but we're going to put the arm into its socket. The older Marvel Legend figures, actually I have to do this off the camera, the older Marvel Legend figures, actually, when you collect and the Build-A-Figure pieces, you really had to work them into the socket, especially with the arms and the legs. But essentially what you get is, got one more piece. Got one more piece of Sentinel. And then he's done. He is done. And then I can finally get him all on camera. So we'll just move him out of the way. Cyclops also does come with a display stand. Common trend with a lot of Marvel Legend figures is that they come with these display stands. And if you've seen some of the incredible guys on YouTube who use these stands all the different interesting ways and have their figures on display, certainly has given this guy a lot of ideas that I probably haven't thought of before, and when I eventually get these guys displayed, I'm probably going to use some of those ideas, having them mounted, having the figures flying and whatnot. But they do come with a display stand. He also does come with, and I really should have put this on the arm, is that he also comes with the tentacle of the Sentinel's arm, which would plug actually into the hand. But we'll move him out of the way. I think a lot of you guys were thinking I was going to start the review with Optic Blast, which was something I did with the initial video. Now I gotta say, there's a lot of interesting things about this Cyclops that I don't like. One of which is the fact that he's got this too dark of a paint wash on his blue costume here. They really went to town. They just put black all over this costume. He is also extremely ripped. Probably a little more ripped than I would think of for Cyclops. And I think lastly, I'm just going to get all the bad out of the way. Lastly, the other thing that's very strange about the Cyclops is the fact that he doesn't have any mid-torso articulation. He only has the standalone waist swivel. I always found that really interesting with this figure. Now, having said that though, I like the figure, but he's not my favorite Cyclops. I still love the 90s Jim Lee style Cyclops from the X-Men Classics line. Unfortunately though, much smaller, much skinnier in build. I think the one thing I dislike about this figure the most is the abs. I just think they sculpted way too much detail and way too much definition on this guy. Now he's sporting the classic blue, the yellow costume, complete with the yellow boots. And again, the yellow boots aren't a vibrant yellow. They're extremely dirty from all this additional paint that they've added to it. I don't know, it doesn't look like it's the same black. Instead they've put like a brown. It might even be brown in the rest of the blue costume here. But clearly a victim of overly painting a figure. This figure didn't have to be as painted as it ended up being. I think had the wash been a little lighter, and the blue a little more vibrant, and the yellow being a little more vibrant, I touched his crotch, he would have been a decent looking figure. His face also is a little off too. Boy, I'm really dissecting this figure, aren't I? Clearly, at the end of the day, he's not one of the nicest Marvel Legends figures, but being that he's one of the few Cyclops figures out there, excluding, of course, the newer Cyclops figure that came out, with was it the Brood Queen? But he is one of the only Hasbro, or Toy Biz, Marvel Legend figures. In the way of his articulation, he has a lot of movement in his head. You can move it up and down, left and right. He has the ball jointed shoulders. You can swivel at the bicep, bend at the elbows, 2 points. You can rotate the forearm. I think you can rotate the forearm. It doesn't look like it wants to. Could just be stiff. You can bend the hand. You can also bend the 4 fingers. As mentioned, no mid-torso articulation, but you can rotate the waist. You can bend the legs back and forth. Rotate at the thigh. You bend the knee at 2 points. You can bend the foot, and you can bend the toe. Again, it doesn't look like you can rotate the calf on the calf part on the figure. I think the problem is this figure feels very much like it was one of the very first figures made for Marvel Legends. And it's funny that I would love to research this figure more. I'd love to go back and figure out when this specific figure was designed, because I'd be almost willing to guess that despite the fact he wasn't in the first wave of Marvel Legends, maybe they made this figure earlier on and then just released him as part of the Sentinel series, because the figure seems very basic and almost crude in design. I know I'm really beaten up on this figure, but being a fan of Cyclops, I just think this figure could have been a lot better than what he ended up being, and I think he really suffers with the paint and this ab part right here. Despite that though, this figure is going to get a 5, and we are now down to 1 figure review left before Sentinel is finished. And that goes to, well, you know what? I'm not even going to tell you. You're going to have to wait and see. But in the meantime, that was a toy spot. Today we're looking at the Cyclops figure. He's not one of the best figures. Very basic in design, but one of those figures that still a lot of collectors have picked up because he's one of the few Cyclops figures released. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for many more toy spots to come, and I'll see you guys next time.